Well, Prime Minister Anthony Albanese has pledged Australian support for as long as it takes for Ukraine to emerge victorious, unveiling an extra $100 million in assistance. Mr Albanese announced the extra aid, standing alongside the Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky in Kiev. Joining us live now is Stefan, Romaniw, the co-chair of the Australian Federation of Ukrainian Organisations. Really appreciate your time. Gosh, it must have felt good to see our Prime Minister side by side with President Zelensky.
Yeah, Ash, it was a memorable moment, obviously in history. 30 years of independence of Ukraine, but also 30 years of diplomatic relations, and the first time a Prime Minister has visited Ukraine. It also showed the strength between Australia and Ukraine. It certainly reinforced the message that Ukraine will continue to fight. It will continue to fight with the support of the international community, and Australia really wants to be part of that community. I just wanted to say that having had a brief conversation with the Prime Minister while we were in Kiev, he was obviously very taken aback by some of the things that he saw, his visits to Bucha, his visits to Irpin, the disaster there. One point he made was that he couldn't believe that the Russians, in such an inhumane way, would be attacking public buildings, kindergartens and so on. I think that message really resonated with the Prime Minister, and we're very grateful for his visit. We're very grateful for the fact that he made the trip. He has announced some new initiatives in terms of supporting Ukraine. I know that the conversation that he had with the President was a very amicable one. They found common ground, and I think it's a great opportunity now for us to move forward. There's probably one other thing that needs to be said, that there's also, apart from the $100 million supporting military aid and so on, there was also one decision that was made and announced, and that was the fact that Ukraine would be dropping tariffs on goods from Ukraine for the next 12 months, something that our Federation has been working on for some time. So good news all round, but unfortunately bad news that the war continues. Russia continues to impose itself. Russia continues to murder, kill, rape. And as the Prime Minister said, these matters have to be dealt with as war crimes in the international court.
One thing that was lacking from the Prime Minister's visit was a firm announcement on a timeline of reopening an Australian embassy in Kiev. What is your understanding on the delay on that, and how important will it be to get that reopened?
Look, we had that discussion. Obviously, a lot of these discussions happen behind closed doors. I know that the Prime Minister is keen to have the embassy reopened. We had that discussion, but they're discussions that are being held for particular reasons by the authorities that look after those things. But we certainly saw one thing, the close work of the Australian embassy in Ukraine and the Ukrainian embassy in Canberra, working in partnership with the Australian Federation of Ukrainian Organisations and the Ukrainian World Congress to make this trip happen. And I think all around, people have seen it as a very, very important visit. People have acknowledged that Australia will continue to support. And one other thing, as I think we have to, I'd like to highlight, is that people sometimes underestimate how important these visits are from people in Australia. Speaking to people on the ground, and I'm not just talking about government officials, people in Ukraine that knew about this trip again asked this question: how is it that a country that is 20,000 kilometres away has such an interest and support for Ukraine? So it has an impact on people. And I think the one thing that we have to understand is, while there's a war, while we need to get rid of Putin as a tyrant, at the same time, there are people involved. And one of the places that the Prime Minister went on Sunday, I went there on Saturday, Irpin, which was devastated. But the spirit in Irpin about a rebuild, about a strong message to Russia, you will not win this. We spoke to, for example, a librarian who on Saturdays and during the week bring children together to give them a sense of hope. They have activities. They want those children to feel, they don't want them to feel that depression of war. But they were very, very clear. we will fight this to the end, and we look forward to Australia supporting us. And their response, and they asked that to be passed over, was "Дуже дякую." Thank you very, very much to Australia. So, very important trip. We think it's a great step forward. Again, the relations are very, very strong, and let's hope that we can build on that, and let's hope that the war ends soon.
We all can join you in hoping for that, Stefan. How many of Ukrainians have actually fled here to Australia? How challenging is that process? Does more need to be done to help that transition for people who would like to pursue that option?
We understand there are about 8,000 visas that were issued. Of those, about 3,700 have arrived through the Federation, but also through the government instrumentalities. We're working in partnership to help people settle. Like any other process, there are hiccups, and we're just talking to Minister Giles at the moment about a number of issues. Important that people feel comfortable, that people be able to create a new life in the 3 years that they are here. A lot of agencies are working, but the important thing is also we're also working very, very close as a community throughout Australia in all our states and territories, that people feel very, very much integrated into our community and are supported. So at the moment we have different programs that are being delivered by the community, but there are also those programs through AIMS and SSI and others that are working very, very hard to settle people. That's on one part of that, our activity, and just the other part of our activity. While I was in Ukraine, we looked at the support for Rotary to build shelters for displaced persons. So we've got displaced persons in Ukraine, and we've got displaced persons in Australia. So the program in Ukraine will be to refurbish some buildings, have people be able to have a roof over their head until they find something more stable. We have Ukrainian crisis appeal. We've raised $6.4 million. We're working hard to make sure that displaced persons in Ukraine and also in Australia feel that they're wanted and feel that the community is supporting them.
Stefan, keep up the good work, and we really appreciate you making the time to talk to us at what is a very early time in the morning there in Poland. Thank you so much for sharing your insights. We appreciate it.
Could I just say that last thing is our thoughts are also with the people who are going through these terrible floods in Australia. So let's pray and hope that they also get some comfort very, very shortly.
Appreciate that. Stefan, thank you. And we have been told that the Prime Minister Anthony Albanese has touched down in Perth. We are expecting that he will hold a short doorstop very shortly. So we're standing by for that in the next few minutes.